stormwater would actually be very easy to take care of. Vermont has had in place for many years a policy called, many of you know, the anti-degradation policy, which is really pretty simple. It means if the water's clean, you don't mess it up. We have failed to implement this policy for at least the past 10 years. If we implemented the policy, it would have an awful lot to do with dealing with the stormwater issues. There are a lot of very cost-effective, easy ways to help mitigate stormwater runoff. When you look out and you see water pouring down the road and it's going into the sewer, trust me, there are a lot of easy, simple ways by putting buffers that can deal with this. And we should ask our communities, when they are going through rebuilding projects in their communities, to upgrade what they're doing for stormwater. Wastewater treatment. To me, this is a classic example of where the business community and the environmental community have become divided intentionally. The amount of phosphorus that goes into the lake from wastewater treatment is very low. So the business community says, why are you paying any attention to this? You shouldn't do this. We've already paid millions. Don't make us pay more. Go get those farmers. The environmental community says, yeah, but your technology is more than 10 years old and you're not using all your capacity. And if you use all your capacity with old technology, you're going to put more pee in the lake than we'll ever get out. Go get the farmers. Okay? I know from talking with a number of experts that there are many management techniques for wastewater treatment that don't cost a lot of money, that can significantly improve the quality of the water that goes out. And by the way, if you don't improve the quality of your wastewater treatment, you're not going to use your capacity because there's no need to put more pee in the lake.
So there's several things that I will do as governor. First, start by enforcing our existing laws. I mean, that seems to me to be a no-brainer. We do have an administration that's not been enforcing our existing laws. And as Susan Bartlett just said, implement those programs that we have. Do the things that we know can be done. The laws are there, the regulations are already there. Second thing is deal with suburban sprawl. Now, one of the failings of Act 250 is there's nothing specific in there to deal with the issue of suburban sprawl. And Ginny Lyons is out here, and Ginny, along with other people, I've really been working on that to amend the criteria of Act 250 so that we can address suburban sprawl. The third thing that I would do as governor is work with our communities like Williston and South Burlington, who were just recognized recently for being creative and innovative in trying to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff that's coming from existing developments and future developments. They've been put in a position where they have to, and they've responded in a very positive way, and we're making progress in those communities. The fourth thing I would do is make sure that we're taking maximum advantage, and we are not today doing this, but take maximum advantage of those visionary laws and programs that we have with downtowns, village centers, growth centers, all those things that we put in place, but we need a governor who's going to make maximum use of those programs as a way of targeting our development where we want it. We talk about this all the time. There's more that we can do. We aren't doing it yet, but we need a governor. I want to be that governor who's going to say, we're going to concentrate our development in those growth areas. We're going to concentrate our development in those downtowns, and we're going to do our best to discourage suburban sprawl. And the last thing is, obviously, pollution control has to be an investment that we make. I've talked about investments a lot tonight. Again, if we're going to make progress on cleaning up Lake Champlain, we've got to be willing to invest the dollars.
I'll just add a few points. The first is, when President Obama was running his campaign, one of the things that they talked a lot about is investing in America's infrastructure, and wastewater treatment plants were at the top of the list. I would work as governor with the best congressional delegation in the country, which happens to be from Vermont, and President Obama, to ensure that we get our piece of the action, because the first part of the question is how you pay for it. And one of the unfortunate realities for the state of Vermont is that the current administration, after 8 years of their management, has driven us into the financial rock, and we are dead broke. Our promises outweigh our ability to pay, and anyone that tells you that Vermont can put hundreds of millions of dollars into wastewater treatment plants hasn't looked at the financial mess that these folks have brought us. It's very similar to the way George Bush left his economy for the incoming president. Whoever at this table gets elected governor has a similar financial mess on their hands. So we've got to work with Washington to get our share of the help. Second, I can tell you that I think Susan makes a good point. The tension between business and farm has to come to an end. Listen, if you go talk to farmers, dairy farmers, they'll tell you, and it's not just Lake Champlain, by the way, this question is a little Chittenden-centric. You know, I got a river down my way. It's called the Connecticut River. We got a few on the other side of the state. It's all of Vermont's waterways that we've got to be talking about here. And if you talk to the farmers, they don't want to be polluting the resources that make Vermont so precious. So the question is, how do we give them the tools? And how do we work with them to ensure that they're not polluting the streams? They don't want to do it any more than we want them to. Now, there's been some great things. We've helped fund the Farmers Watershed Alliance up in Franklin County that Susan talked about the other day. That's basically using an aeration method, very cheap equipment, to ensure that when they put the manure on a field in the spring, and we spread the manure, that it actually gets pulled into the ground when it rains.
The first thing that you don't do in trying to achieve that goal is by taking people who call out a problem at the lake and trying to do a character assassination when they have spoken truth to power. You must embrace those criticisms and turn it into a call to action. The second is that you need to take the types of approaches that have been pioneered in places like South Burlington with the stormwater bank. But as someone who's been in business for most of his adult life, I also believe in performance. And I believe that it's appropriate for performance bonds associated with new development to make sure that good developers are rewarded for doing the right thing, and that developers who are trying to cut corners and adding to pollution pay for it. It's appropriate, it's fair, and it's the way to reduce the phosphorus. We do need to tackle these issues comprehensively, and we should be using all of the federal dollars available from the stimulus funds as well as bonded dollars to improve our wastewater. But if we don't address the non-point source problems that contribute to phosphorus, since that's 90% of the phosphorus that goes into the lake, we are not going to be addressing the problem that will allow our lake to be an asset for generations to come.
You know, I believe fundamentally that we need to make polluters pay. Of course, when we're talking about stormwater, when we're talking about farms, that's much easier said than done. One thing that hasn't been addressed by any of the folks up here yet tonight is government's responsibility. You know, as governor, I'll be managing our state agencies, and I would get serious about what we can do to cut our pollution. One of the major contributors to pollution in the lake is government. Road maintenance, construction practices at Agency of Transportation don't lend themselves to preventing runoff into the lake, and there's construction waste. You know, we also have to help our communities make needed improvements to their wastewater treatment facilities. We've just gotten $39 million in stimulus funds, but you know what, that's a drop in the bucket. There's an awful lot that needs to be done. You know, the lake, as you've heard from everyone, all of us up here, I bet, have personal stories about the lake. My personal story is a little bit less heartening in that this summer we went up, we rented a camp for a week in North Hero, and it's an area of the lake that I've been to before. It's been beautiful, and we couldn't swim. Because of the pollution, there was an algae bloom and there was milfoil, we couldn't swim. It was hard to find a good place for us to swim. That's now. You know, that's now. We have got to get serious about cleaning up Lake Champlain. And you know what? We have tough discharge limits, but they're not as tough as the rest of New England. And I guess my parting thought on this is, if Massachusetts could clean up the Boston Harbor, what's stopping us from cleaning up Lake Champlain? And I'll be back, Governor.